They tell you that betrayal hits you like a freight train, a sudden violent collision that leaves you broken on the tracks. That wasn't my experience. When my world ended, it didn't make a sound. It didn't explode. It just quietly, methodically, drifted away, like a boat losing its anchor in the middle of the night, slowly floating out into the dark, indifferent sea. My name is Wendell Greer. I'm 56 years old. I've been a municipal planner for the city of Brantford, Ontario, for 19 years. My life is built on zoning bylaws, setback requirements, and the tedious, necessary business of telling grown adults that they cannot build a 3-story shed in their backyard. I am a man of order. I am a man of procedure. I am the man who keeps the peace in rooms where people weep over fence permits. I thought I was the man who kept the peace in my own home, too. Gloria and I, 24 years. 2 kids, both grown, both gone, leaving behind nothing but echoes in a brick, semi-detached house on Brant Avenue. We had a garden that Gloria tended every spring with a ferocity that bordered on religious. She didn't ask for help, and she didn't ask for acknowledgement. She just was. We had our rhythms, the quiet, comfortable machinery of a long marriage. I wasn't unhappy. I want to be clear about that. I never stared at the ceiling at 3 a.m., wondering where the love had gone. Life was fine. It was ordinary. It was, as far as I could tell, exactly what it was supposed to be. But looking back, now I realize that fine is a dangerous place to live. Fine is where you stop looking closely at the cracks in the foundation because the house is still standing. Then came the church, Grace Fellowship on Colborne Street. Gloria started going about 8 months ago. She said the community was warm, that she needed something just for herself. I supported that. I offered to go once and she laughed, a gentle, dismissive sound, and said I would hate it. She was right. I'm not a church man. I haven't stepped foot in a sanctuary since my father's funeral 30 years ago. I bought her a nice leather Bible cover for her birthday, kissed her on the forehead, and considered the matter settled. Every Sunday, she would put on a blouse, slacks, and those sensible heels. She'd take her Bible, kiss my cheek, and walk out the door. She'd come home 2.5 hours later, smelling of crisp morning air, sometimes holding a Tim Hortons cup. She'd mention a point from the sermon, nothing specific, just enough to be plausible. I'd nod, maybe check an email and go back to my blueprints. There was only one thing, one small, jagged piece of static in the back of my brain. Sometimes, the coffee cup was from the Tim Hortons on Wayne Gretzky Parkway. Grace Fellowship is on Colborne. The parkway is in the opposite direction. It was like noticing a car parked an inch over the line in front of your house. It bothered you for a second, then you went inside and forgot it entirely. I wish I hadn't forgotten. I wish I had been the kind of man who asked questions. But I was the man who kept the peace. I was the man who didn't want to start a fight over a cup of coffee. The call came on a Thursday in October. I was hunched over a site plan when my phone buzzed. Grace Fellowship Community Church. I almost sent it to voicemail, thinking it was just a donation drive. I answered on the 3rd ring. Is this Wendell Greer, husband of Gloria Greer? Yes, I said. The voice was kind, tired, and deeply concerned. It was Reverend Dale Hutchings. He said he was calling because Gloria had listed me as her emergency contact, and he hadn't seen her in the pews since June. He hoped she was all right. He hoped her health was fine. I told him she was fine. I thanked him. I hung up. I didn't move for 4 minutes. I just stared at the phone, watching the screen go black. Then I called Ray Dammers. Ray is the only man on this earth who knows the shape of my soul. He runs a landscaping company, and he answered on the 2nd ring, sounding like he'd been waiting for me. Ray, I said, my voice sounding hollow in my own ears. I need to talk. I'm in a ditch, he said. Come out of the ditch, Ray. I need you. I told him about the call, about the 4 months. There was a long, heavy silence. Not the silence of a man who is surprised, but the silence of a man who has been waiting for the floor to drop out from under his friend. Wendell, he said, his voice dropping an octave. Do not look at her phone tonight. I have to know, Ray. I know. But once you open that door, You cannot step back through it. You will never be the man you are right now ever again. Are you sure? I'm sure. That night, Gloria made pasta. She sat across from me at the kitchen table, talking about our daughters' upcoming visit and whether we needed to get the gutters cleaned before the frost. She was warm. She was present. She was entirely, terrifyingly normal. I watched her, and I felt something I still don't have a word for. It wasn't anger. Anger is hot. This was ice. It was the feeling of standing at the edge of a cliff and realizing there was no railing, and there never had been. I found myself counting the seconds between her breaths. I found myself memorizing the way she held her fork, the way she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. It was like watching a ghost. She was sitting right there, laughing at something I said, and yet she was already gone. She went to shower. She took her phone with her, but she left the bathroom door cracked open, a habit of 24 years. 5 minutes later, as I walked down the hall, I saw the screen light up on the counter. A message. I didn't deliberate. I didn't pray. I just walked in, picked up the phone, and looked. The thread was labeled with a first name. I won't say it. I don't want to give him even that much dignity. There were 147 messages. I didn't read them all. I didn't need to. I read the first few, then I scrolled. The dates, the times, the Sunday mornings, the coffee stops on the parkway. It was all there. 4 months of careful, ordinary deception. She had left the phone unlocked because she had no reason to believe I would ever look. Why would she? I was Wendell. I was the planner. I was the man who kept the peace. I took 17 screenshots. I sent them to my private email. I put the phone back, walked into the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and stood at the window looking at the backyard. I stood there for a long time, watching the wind move through the trees, feeling the life I had built turn to dust. I thought about the garden. I thought about the hundreds of hours she had spent in that soil, planting, weeding, pruning. Was she thinking of him while she touched the dirt? Was she wishing she were somewhere else every time she stepped out that back door? The next morning, I called Margaret Osei. She's a family law attorney in Hamilton. I'd kept her number for 2 years, ever since some estate trouble, hoping I'd never have to dial it. She answered her own phone. I appreciated that immediately. I explained the situation, keeping my voice steady, the way I do in city council hearings. Sequential. Evidence first. When I met with her on Friday, she looked at the screenshots, pushed her glasses up her nose, and nodded. "We're in a strong position," she said. "Ontario courts take sustained deception seriously." She looked at me, a small, sad smile on her lips. "Your wife is going to need a very good lawyer." "I imagine she will," I said. I went home. I restained the back deck. I asked if she wanted Thai food. We ate, we watched TV, we went to bed. I lived a lie for 3 weeks, and it was the hardest, coldest thing I have ever done. But every time I looked at her, I wasn't just seeing her face anymore. I was seeing the 1 from 47 messages. I was seeing the drive to the parkway. I was seeing the man in the jacket. And strangely, in those 3 weeks, I felt a weird kind of clarity. I wasn't the man who kept the peace anymore. I was the man who was finally, painfully awake. When the papers were finally served, I wasn't there. I wanted the look on her face to be her own. When she confronted me later, she asked, "Who told you?" "The pastor called," I said. "He was worried about your health, Gloria." She sat at the table. She didn't have an answer. There wasn't one. I told her I wasn't angry. I meant it. Anger implies you still care about the outcome. I was just finished. The divorce took 11 months. The house was sold. I moved into a second-floor unit on Dalhousie Street, hardwood floors, big windows, and 1 chair on a small balcony. I sit there on Sunday mornings, drinking coffee, watching the city wake up. Ray came over last week. He sat on an upturned crate in my living room, drank coffee, and looked at me. "You doing okay?" "Yeah," I said. "I know I am." "Good," he said. He asked if I ever thought about going back to restain the second half of that deck at the old house. I looked at him, and for the first time in a year, I really smiled. "That," I said, "is the new owner's problem now." It's been a long road to get here. People think that when you lose a marriage, you lose a part of yourself, but I don't feel lost. I feel like I've been scrubbed clean. I go to work, I deal with the fence permits, I manage the zoning laws, and I go home to my quiet apartment. The silence doesn't bother me anymore. In fact, I've started to enjoy it. I've started to realize that for 24 years, I was living in a crowded house filled with expectations, routines, and a version of myself that didn't really exist. Now, there's just the light. I've learned that the truth isn't something you find. It's something you decide to face. You can spend your life walking around the cracks in your floor, pretending they aren't there, or you can finally look down and realize the house has been hollow for a long time.
I drink my coffee on that balcony every Sunday. I watch the people walking to church, to their lives, to their secrets. I wonder who among them is living the same lie Gloria lived. I wonder if they'll ever get the call, or if they'll spend the rest of their lives drinking cold coffee in the wrong parking lots. But that's their problem now, not mine. I've finished my plan. I've set the boundaries. And for the first time in my life, I am living exactly where I am supposed to be. It's not the life I expected, but it's real. And God help me, after all these years, the truth is finally enough. It is more than enough. I don't miss the garden. I don't miss the deck. I don't miss the church. I just miss the man I was before I became the man who knew everything. But I think, in time, I'll find him again. Or maybe I'll find someone even better. Someone who doesn't need to keep the peace. Someone who just wants to live. The autumn air is cooling down. The leaves are turning, and the city of Brantford looks beautiful from this height. I watch the sun hit the rooftops, and I think about the next phase of the plan. I think about what I'll do tomorrow. I think about the future, not as a map I have to follow, but as a blank sheet of paper, waiting for me to draw something new. It's quiet here. The windows are big, and the floors are solid. The chair on the balcony is exactly where I put it. And every Sunday morning, when the church bells ring in the distance, I don't feel a thing. I just sip my coffee, look out at the horizon, and wait for the sun to rise. It's a good life. It's my life. And for the first time in 24 years, I am the only one who knows the whole story. I wouldn't have it any other way.